Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Headline Books Christmas Extravaganza session. This evening, we have some very special guests to share with you. We have Music and Movies with Jeff Weber and Don McLeod with guest interviewer Burke Allen from Allen Media Strategies. If you all have any questions for any of our presenters throughout the session, feel free to type them into the comments section under this video, and we'll get to those throughout the conversation or at the end. We'll try to get to as many of them as possible. Also, if you are interested in ordering any of the books discussed today, there will also be links to do so in the comments. So again, I would like to thank you all so much for joining us on our Christmas extravaganza session this evening. Go ahead and take it away, Burke.
Thank you, Ashley. Ashley Belote on the naughty list this year during the holiday extravaganza. Our two guests this evening, though, very much on the nice list. And if you're a fan of books like President Obama's books that have lots of gravitas, 768-page tomes. If you're a fan of history, if you're a fan of things that really make you think, then you've tuned into absolutely the wrong presentation this evening, because these books are fun. We're going to have fun in the next hour. Jeff Weber is a music guy, and Don McLeod just defies definition. So I think we'll go for the easy shot first. My friend Jeff Weber is a Grammy-winning music producer who has worked with everybody, all genres of music, from heavy metal to the Great American Songbook to the greatest jazz artists of all time and everything in between. But he also, in all these years of doing this, has become a specialist on the lies you hear in the music business. Hello, my friend in California. How are you, Jeff?
Man, oh man, I'm living the dream now with, my friends from Headline Books and Burke Allen, who manages one of my all-time favorite artists, Landau Eugene Murphy Jr., whom I had the pleasure of making a great record with. And, surprisingly enough, we're still friends.
See, it all worked out. It was touch and go there for no. Landau makes it easy. Jeff, you might be interested to know that tonight, while we're doing this, Landau is appearing at the Casino Entertainment Awards, which normally happen in Las Vegas, but this year, they're virtual, just like everything else, and just like you and I and Don are together virtually. He's doing his thing virtually as well. Hey, so I see your book up there. We see Don's book up there. You sound amazing. Every single lie in the music business. If you really were going to tell every single lie in the music business, likely it would be like the New York City phone book, though, right? Because this is not a business where people tend to be truthful at all times.
No, but what's great about it is that one lie applies to all. You sound amazing. You look amazing. Oh my God, you wrote that? You can get away with. Believe me, it comes from everywhere. My son is a great guitarist. Really? And you're the parent, right? Oh, okay, I get it. So but the truth of the matter is that musicians joke with each other, and they're ruthless. They are nasty, they're cruel, they're just, grating on each other. And this is after they hug each other with sincere, when you walk into a recording studio and you see musicians who haven't seen each other for a while, it's kind of a mini love fest, because everybody hugs each other, and then, pardon my French, the shit starts to hit the fan. And you pick up these things, and I've started collecting them because to me they're hilarious. I mean, just the stuff that is in these, they have stories, let me tell you. I mean, we're seeing, we're on the screen right now, to the right is with me is Steve Lukather from Toto. Oh my gosh, that guy has lived more than 9 lives. And when he's on the road, when early on in his career, he was the man about town, every town. And, fantastic guitar player, very passionate guy, and there's stories. I mean, it's just, you can't believe it. I tried to put as many as I could in there that could actually make people laugh.
And that's what this book is all about. If you want to hear some sort of funny stuff that musicians at the highest level share amongst one another, pick up Jeff's book. And by the way, if you're interested in any of the books that you see us talk about during the Headline Books Holiday Extravaganza, then log on to headlinebooks.com and they're available there. So let's talk a little bit about, oh, by the way, there's a picture of you with Landau Eugene Murphy Jr., the great American songbook singer that I managed and you produced. He won America's Got Talent. How did you become the guy that produces all of these amazing artists? How did that career path happen?
Totally by accident. I decided that I was Jeff Weber, the record producer. Really, I didn't have any knowledge about being a record producer. Didn't have any clue as to what that really meant. And I approached 3 people who were amazing musicians. And I said, I'm Jeff Weber, the record producer. I'm sure you've heard my work. Of course, I didn't have any work. And I produced, I said that I'd like to produce them. And I was expecting them to ask me if there was anything they could listen to that I've done, but they're musicians. And so the first instinct for any musician is to get paid. And so they asked me, well, what are you paying? Since I didn't really know anything about how to get paid, what a musician gets paid, I asked them what they wanted. And they told me, since I didn't know anything about whether that was good or bad, naturally I said, okay. That turned out to be my negotiating style. And I went to a company in St. Louis that at the time was making record care cleaning products. And I said to them, listen, my name is Jeff Weber, the record producer, and I'm sure you've heard of me. And there's 3 guys in Los Angeles, and I'd like to make a record with them. I think you should treat it as a marketing tool for your products. Make a record, treat it as a demonstration disc, sell it. It's going to be, direct to disc at that time, and it'll be something amazing. And the 3 musicians were Paul Smith, who was Ella Fitzgerald's piano player for 30 years, Ray Brown, one of the most celebrated bass players in jazz music history, and Louis Bellson, the drummer of all jazz drummers. We they started asking me questions which I really couldn't answer at the time, like, well, what are we doing? What are we going to record? And I thought, well, the only way that I can make up my mind about that is to pick songs that they already knew, so that I wouldn't have to open my mouth. Because if I opened my mouth, they would see what a real idiot I was, and everything.
You'd be found out.
Yeah, they would found out. So we did this thing, and direct to disc, which means we had to record an entire side at one time, no breaks, no nothing. If you made a mistake in any one of the 5 or 6 songs, you had to do the whole thing over, and no musician would ever attempted that. But these guys were fearless. They did it like it was just another Tuesday morning. And it was a great record. And the company said, well, maybe we should do 2 next year. I told my parents, who were absolutely in shock and in horror, and they told me that I'm an idiot and the post office was hiring. And
wow. There's nothing like support from your parents. I mean, to really light a fire under you. What did they want you to be?
An attorney. I had gone to law school.
And you told them, no, the law thing that you paid for 8 years, that's great and all, but I think really what I want to do is I want to go and hang out with jazz musicians.
What I didn't tell them is that during the bar exam, I would take it during the daytime, and at nighttime, I went over, which was right across the street, to a record company called Sheffield Labs, where I was assisting in recording a Harry James record, in a church. It was amazing for Sheffield Labs, and it was direct to disc and everything. And Harry James was an interesting guy. He, in his water bottle, he didn't have water, but he had another clear liquid. Can you guess? No. Anyway, so
no.
So needless to say, that bar exam wasn't necessary. I had some family tragedies right before the exam, so I knew that I wasn't really in shape. So I tried to make the most. So it was an amazing experience, and I'm not talking about the bar exam.
There's a picture up on the screen of you with Lionel Richie, and this is right around the time of We Are the World, 1985. So he was like the biggest artist in the world at that time. One of them, certainly.
He was.
As a producer, you're supposed to be, to a certain extent, you know, in charge of what's going on. Is it hard when you're around somebody like that not to totally fanboy out?
Well, to be honest with you, I really loved his music. You know, I loved him. Brick House, I always loved that. And I had an idea for him, and he was very receptive. I said, I'd like to do a, you know, record. Lionel does Stevie and Stevie does Lionel, two huge 9-foot grand pianos, Stevie Wonder and Lionel Richie. And then behind them would be this all-star rhythm section. And then there would be the, you know, the strings, the full orchestra and the background vocalists. And he loved the idea. And he said, you know, that Stevie's coming in to do work on his record tonight, you know, with the orchestra, because we were in adjoining studios. I said, well, why don't I, you know, my session ends a little bit. Would you mind if I stayed? And he said, well, it's not really a great idea because Stevie doesn't really have a watch, you know. So he was supposed to come in at 8 o'clock. I came in the next day and, you know, ran into Lionel and I said, so how'd it go? And he said, Stevie came in at 3 in the morning. Now, what that meant was that the entire orchestra waited all night. And believe me, they were very happy about it because they all got paid for all that time.
To hang out.
It's a union gig. And it was just like, Lionel was right. I'm glad I didn't do it. But, you know, it was a great idea. I, you know, wish I could do it now.
I love the whole concept, Jeff, that you've written a book about lies in the music business and your entire career started with a lie as you BS your way into the whole thing. I think that's
correct. I had actually even prepared, you know, a retort if somebody said, well, it had you kind of, can we listen to something? And I said, well, you know, I'm not really sure that you've ever heard anything I've done because I'm trying to broaden my base because up to this point, I've been in a very, very niche kind of business. The gospel porn industry and music is very, very different. So I'm really trying to kind of move out of that into a little bit different, but nobody asked me. I was prepared.
See? You did an album. Oh, wait a minute. We've got another picture coming up. Hold on. I'm going to hold my question to see what comes up next. There's a picture, by the way, down at the bottom of you and the engineer, Clark St. Germain, and Tariq, who played guitar on Landau's album. So up here in the left corner are some guys that if you're way into jazz, you're going to know a Chick Corea and Stanley Clark. But there's some other guys that you may not know their names, and Nancy Wilson, of course, in these pictures, but they're huge behind the scenes artists as well. And Tariq, who was on that last slide, is one of them. Talk to us a little bit about this phenomenon that you have in Los Angeles, Nashville, New York City, of the behind the scenes session players and how they kind of fit into what you write about.
Well, there's a wonderful assortment of players that are great beyond great. And it's very difficult to make a bad record if you have a tendency to use those players because they're much better than me on every level. And it took me a long time to realize that if I just hired them and then got out of the way, I would be seen as a genius when just the opposite was true, right? Now, in this particular photo that you're talking about with Chick Corea and, you know, Stanley Clark, you know, a horrifically talented bass player, unbelievable. Lenny White, incredible. Joe Henderson, who, you know, all of these are artists in their own right. Joe Henderson got out of his car when we were doing that, and I introduced myself. Hey, I'm Jeff Weber. Glad to see you. He looked at me and said, "Where's my check?" So, you know, we got along famously.
And that's how you make friends. You hand them the money right away.
Exactly right, you know, and I had a situation with Freddie Hubbard, another amazing trumpet player, legend. He came in for his session and he looked at the musicians and he pulled me over and he said, you know, my lip is really hurting. I can't really play today. I had 25 musicians in the room and I looked at him and I pulled him out of the studio and I said, hey, listen, I'll tell you what. Why don't I give you your check at 5:45? You can leave then and go deposit it right in your bank account. And he said, my lip is much better.
Funny how that works, right?
Didn't expect it.
The session musicians that, again, you don't know many of their names, wind up playing on hundreds, thousands of the biggest songs
Thousands.
of all time.
Thousands. You wouldn't believe it. I mean, there is a photo that was just up with a group photo with one of the guys, Lee Sklar, with a long beard. I mean, these are, you don't have. Here's what happens with me. I'll take the chart, I'll go up to the musician and I'll say, here's the music, please don't play this. If you hear of something that might advance the song in any way, emotionally, sonically, musically, please don't ask permission, just do it. I want them to get invested emotionally in the song. I stay out of it because if I hire those guys to be them, let me take the handcuffs off them. Let them play what they know will improve the song. They're all tasteful. These guys, you know, they're at the peak of their craft, you know. I don't say this lightly, but if there was an equivalent to brain surgeons in music, it would be these accomplished players, because they are my set 'em and forget 'ems. If they're on the date, I don't have to worry. I can focus on my artist, knowing that these guys, they will take care of us. The artist will benefit.
Grammy Award-winning music producer Jeff Weber, my buddy, is one of our guests for the Headline Books Christmas Extravaganza. If you'd like to pick up Jeff's book of humorous lies that you might hear in the music business, then log into headlinebooks.com and do so. The album I wanted to ask you about, there's a picture of you in the middle, and I may have this wrong in your bio, but is it true that you actually won some sort of Grammy Award for producing a heavy metal Pat Boone album? Is that right? Do I have that right?
Well, we didn't win a Grammy for that record, but that was a very interesting record because Pat Boone, who is the sweetest, nicest guy, as you can see in this photo, he had decided to do what he calls a heavy metal album. Of course, Pat Boone could never do a heavy metal album, but anyway, he decided he wanted to take heavy metal songs and do, you know, full large ensemble arrangements of them. So I utilized every major jazz big band arranger, from Sammy Nestico, who was Count Basie's arranger, to, you know, on and on and on and on. As a matter of fact, speaking of Sammy Nestico, he was assigned the song Stairway to Heaven. Okay, and I asked him, had he ever heard that song before? He goes, nope, never heard of it. And so he arranged, he did the arrangement. And normally a chart has repeats, so the musicians don't have to keep turning the pages and playing and turn the pages and playing. Well, he didn't have any repeats in his charts. This chart for Stairway to Heaven was 48 pages. So the musicians, they couldn't, there was no return. So we actually had to have the chart in a semicircle. So there was about a dozen music stands and we had the chart all around. So the players would walk around and play. And afterwards, I asked him to sign the chart because I thought it was so amazing. And he wrote, "Dear Jeff, never again, please, Sam."
I just saw Pat Boone over the weekend. He is close friends with a fella named Mafe Nutter. And Mafe Nutter, one of the best names ever. He's a fellow West Virginian. He was inducted into the West Virginia Music Hall of Fame. And Mafe, you know, he had a deal on Frank Zappa's record label back in the early 70s. And he was a character actor on the Dukes of Hazzard. Well, when he gets inducted into the West Virginia Music Hall of Fame, he calls Pat Boone. And Pat Boone drove up to Bakersfield and they did a session to get him inducted. So Pat is still out there doing it.
He is, and he still has a great voice. I used that record with Michael Lloyd, who actually lived across the street from him and produced the Big Debbie Boone hit. And it was Michael Lloyd that called me and said, "Hey, listen, you know, I hear that you do, you know, you produce big bands. You know, maybe we can have you come in for a song." And I said, "Well, I have an idea. Let's do this live to 2 tracks with no mixing, no editing, and no overdubbing, except for Pat. And Pat can then do his thing." So as it turns out, when I presented that, they thought it was a good enough idea, so that I produced the whole record with Michael Lloyd. And Michael, who knew Pat a lot better than I did, was able to produce his vocals. And you know, really, you could see Michael Lloyd's elbow down in the lower left hand corner.
I was doing radio when that album came out, and I remember a Pat Boone CD showing up in my mailbox, and it's Pat Boone with no shirt on and a leather vest.
No, no more Mr. Nice Guy.
Yeah, I skipped lunch after that, and I just moved. And we got to talk to Don, but two more things for you. Linda Ronstadt. How could you even get a word out when you're around such an incredibly talented and incredibly beautiful lady as Linda Ronstadt?
She's as humble and down to earth as you would imagine.
Now, is this one of those lies, Jeff Weber?
Not a lie. No lie. No. She is, she's a singer. She does her thing, and she's very humble about it, and just a sweetheart. It was a very fortuitous moment, and John Boylan, her longtime producer, they do it right, and she just is one of those artists that you dream about working, because she prepares, and she's not a diva. She does know what she wants, but come on, she sounds fantastic. So what are you going to say? She's just fantastic.
Hey, I don't know. I'm going to put you on the spot here. I don't know if you have a copy of the book on your desk, but I would love it if you do, if you would read a couple of the big lies.
Yeah. You mean, well, I would love to read them.
Eyebrow stuff we might find in this book.
Well, I'll read something that, everybody knows, a few of the producer lies, a few of the record company lies, but not a lot of people know lies from the road. In other words, like lies from the road. These are what?
On tour lies? Is that
yeah? These are kind of lies that artists will tell you on the road. So the number one lie on the road is, don't worry, the booking is definite. There used to that took over the number one lie of all time, which is the checks in the mail, but that has been updated. I've updated that because that's kind of, so now the new version of that is, what, you didn't get the check? And so lies from the road. This is the best weed you've ever scored, right? Lies from the road. Here's another lie that unfortunately lives with us to this day. The show starts at 8.
Yeah,
right.
That's always a lie.
Now, here are a few lies that you'll never hear on a tour bus. No, they're not even lies. Here are things that you'll never hear. The first one, and I'll be brief because I'm super excited to hear Don's talk, but here's something you'll never hear on a tour bus. Oh, just leave it. I'll clean it up. You never gonna hear that on a tour bus. Or checkmate. You're never gonna hear that on a tour bus.
That's not nice. You're not a nice man. You're not a nice man to me.
I say that in the intro. Okay, and the last one, which is the most offensive, is, who put the porn DVD in the player? You'll never hear that on a tour bus. You just won't. So anyway, one of the best lies ever is, from a producer is, we didn't use your song, but your song was the best song we didn't use. Or my new favorite, which is, your music is much better than it sounds. Wait, what?
You write that one down. Write that one down. Jeff,
interestingly enough, I'm going to close out saying that, but the guy that said that, your music is much better than it sounds, is Mark Twain.
Oh, come on.
What a great seg to Don McLeod.
I don't believe it. Hold your book cover up to the screen. Show everyone. It's an incredible piece of work.
This is a picture of me as I get another demo in the mail before I have to say anything about it. Holy mackerel. You can actually, fortunately or unfortunately, if the real deal is happening in front of your ears the minute you hear it. Actually, not even a minute. You, Bob, you, Burke, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You can tell whether something is the real or not within 10 seconds.
You sound amazing. The book is by Jeff Weber. If you've got a musician in your family or your a friend or perhaps an enemy would work too, You Sound Amazing from Jeff Weber,
Hey,
available now at headlinebooks.com.
if you don't like this book, give it to someone you don't like.
Thank you, Yogi Berra. So we're going to shift gears a little bit because we're talking movies and music. It's sort of that whole entertainment smudging together of roles. And right before we went on the air, Don McLeod, our guest, said, yeah, so I ran into Jeff Weber at the grocery store, and he was telling me there's this great publisher that would be interested in. So, Don, you're going to have to, I think, describe what it is you do for a living, because if I told people, here's a man who's been able to put food on the table for the better part of 4 decades wearing a gorilla suit, I don't think anyone would believe me. So what is it that you, Don McLeod, do for a living, and what is this book about?
Well, let's see. I do mime was my basic thing. I was an actor. I couldn't remember my lines, so I switched to mime and excelled in it. Basically, I was an only child, played alone in a small town in Northern California, and had a lot of experience imagining friends and animals and characters. So that really led me to a career in theater school. Then I studied mime with Marcel Marceau, and one of my assignments was to go to the San Diego Zoo and observe the primates. And they said, bring back any animal impersonation that you find interesting. And I was immediately drawn to the primate exhibit, the gorillas, and brought the gorilla back, and that was kind of the beginning. And I did a low budget movie in 1979 called The Galactic Connection. And that's sort of, my book really begins with my childhood as a kind of a precocious only child. And then it goes through my theater school experiences and all the way up to how I became a gorilla, and then my travels around the world in a state-of-the-art gorilla suit made by Academy Award winner Rick Baker, who designed the suit. It was at the time $35,000 to build the suit. Now it would be about an $80,000 suit, which I have a updated version of the original suit with new parts. And so that's a capsulized version. So what I do is, my day job is a living statue. And this is actually me in the photo that you see. And that's me holding a bronze statue of myself that was given to me as a gift. So I do living statues by day, solo mime work at night, and then gorillas around the clock. So that's a capsulized version. And I've also been in a rock band, and it's weird for a mime to have his own rock band, but I toured with Diana Ross for 2 years as a mime, part of her show. And my rock band opened for Fleetwood Mac and many other. We were big arena. I was the silent lead singer. I didn't sing, but I was very animated. It was like Peter Gabriel meets David Bowie meets Marcel Marceau. And our group was very successful in terms of people enjoying us, but the record companies didn't know what to do with a mime as the lead singer. So
yeah, I can't imagine that would be a real easy marketing slam dunk for any record label.
Yeah, they brought us in, as crazy as it was. This was in the mid 70s, and they didn't know what to do with this. They said, we love you guys, you sound great. We were kind of a Genesis type, Emerson, Lake and Palmer Genesis type thing, and I acted out all the characters and wrote all of the pieces. But it was before a lot of video. But we played the Whiskey in LA and the Troubadour and a lot of places. And so I wanted to be a baseball player and a rock and roll star, and I ended up as a gorilla.
It's your circuitous path to career. The book is Gorilla Tales, a memoir. Don McLeod is our guest. Subtitle, perhaps my favorite subtitle in the entire series, My Life as a Professional Primate.
Yeah.
So if you're watching right now and you're saying, well, gosh, I wonder where I might have seen Don McLeod in the gorilla suit. You've done some pretty big movies in that thing. And perhaps the one that I think about the most is one that starred a very young and lovely Jamie Lee Curtis and also Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd. Tell me about that experience.
Yep, Trading Places.
What do you remember? And it's been a minute since you did that movie, but what do you remember about the three of them? And let's start with Eddie Murphy. What do you remember about Eddie Murphy?
Oh, Eddie Murphy was the best. I have a whole chapter devoted to my experience on the set and traveling around. But the first day on the set, I was backstage. They were filming in New York, and I was in my suit, and I didn't have the head on yet. It was sitting on a table, and my dresser was combing my gorilla suit. And Eddie Murphy came back and saw the gorilla, and he said, "Oh my God, I love this!" And he said, and he grabbed the gorilla head, and he popped it on top of his head, and he started dancing around. He goes, "Ayas kunta kinte, ayas kunta kinte," and because he had done Roots, the Alex Haley miniseries, and then somebody looked around. And they were laughing hysterically. Here's Eddie Murphy dancing around in my gorilla head, and I'm just going. And then he said, "Welcome aboard. So nice to meet you. Good luck, man." And he went back. They called him back to the set, and then Jamie Lee came in, and I met her, and I was kind of awestruck by her, and I said, "Hi, Jamie. It's really nice to meet you." And she kind of looked at me, and she kind of poked me in the chin with her finger, and she said, "You're cute." And I said, "No, you're cute. I'm her." But Trading Places was quite an epic shoot, because I was in a lot of scenes, and they would film me for one day and then fly me back to LA. And it was first class travel and really sweet. And back, they gave you $250, this back in 1981. And that was your per diem per day. And my starving artist friends in New York all said, "Hey, Don, let's go to dinner," because they knew I'd pick up the tab. And so I was feeding all of these starving actors in New York on my Trading Places per diem. And so my chapter covers the filming of it and getting stuck in a snowstorm outside of Secaucus, New Jersey. And I was so cold, I had to put the gorilla suit on to not freeze to death. And a lot of
time, Don, because I'm imagining you bellying up to the bar beside a pretty girl, and you know the small talk begins, and well, what do you do? And I'm wondering how that all would play out for you.
Oh, it works well, because the great thing about having a state-of-the-art gorilla suit is you can get away with everything, and if you break stuff, you don't have to pay for it. And guys want to take pictures with you, and girls want to take pictures with you. So one of my chapters was I was the Salsa Tequila gorilla. And I happened to meet the owner of Salsa Tequila out of Dallas on a plane flight from Miami. And we were talking, "What do you do?" And he said, "I make tequila and sell it." And I said, "Which kind?" He goes, "Salsa." And I go, "Oh, I love that." And then he said, "What do you do?" And I said, "I'm a gorilla." And then he said, "Well, here's my card. We should talk. This sounds good." I got his card, and a year later, the phone rang, and it was this gentleman. And he said, "We're doing a big promotion for Sangrita. It's a new elixir mixer thing that we have to go with the tequila, and we want you to have you come to Dallas, and we're going to have you in a limo with the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders, and we're going to go to 7 of the top bars in Dallas, and your job is to drink shots of tequila out of a long straw and take pictures with the guests and dance with the cowboy cheerleaders." And they thought this was really funny, and so did I. So I go there, get in the costume, limo pulls up, off we go. And the problem was I was drinking tequila through a straw on basically an empty stomach.
Oh, this is not going to end well.
No, it didn't end well. We were scheduled to go to 7 different bars, and the third one was as far as we got, and people were dancing with me. The suit weighs about 50 pounds, and you're breathing your own carbon monoxide. So, and I go crazy. I'm dancing with everybody and posing for pictures. So by the third uh, restaurant that we were at, I think it was Tequila Willie's, which is a good name. I ended up passing out and have to run outside, and they threw me in a cab and got me back to the Marriott. And a lot of stuff happened in between. But those are the stories that made me. I took notes on all these jobs I did. I did a lot of jobs in Japan, and I was in.
I see the gorilla suit took you around the world.
It did. They always said never look a gift horse in the mouth, and I looked the gorilla in the mouth and said, he looks good. His teeth are good, as you can see in the photo from Trading Places. I'm the real, quote unquote, real gorilla. So
Wow.
it was a lot of adventures.
How do these big stars? There's a picture of you with Steve Martin there from The Man with Two Brains.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, how do they treat the guy? And please forgive me, no offense intended, or maybe a little offense. How do they treat the guy in the gorilla suit?
Well, in general, the gorilla could go anywhere that he wanted, because at the time I had done the American Tourister luggage commercials that first done in 1980, and they ran all the time from 80 through, they actually went up through like 2005, but to capsulize the answer to your question, everybody knew the gorilla from the commercials in the early 80s. So I was I was the superstar as the spokesperson for American Tourister. And people go, oh my God, that's the famous gorilla from the TV show, or that's the gorilla from Trading Places. And so there was no stars. It didn't matter who they were. They were going, I want to meet the gorilla, because I was a talking gorilla too. I've talked to people, and so I never had a problem being intimidated by anybody. Really, I was quite comfortable in or out of the gorilla suit with movie stars. And
Author Don McLeod is our guest in the Headline Books Holiday Extravaganza. You can pick up his book about his life as a gorilla at headlinebooks.com. So I saw this fascinating documentary a couple of weeks ago, Don, about Adam West. And there was a time in the late 70s, the early 80s, where he was having a tough time putting food on the table, and he was forced to do all of these personal appearances wearing the Batman suit. And sometimes Burke would have to go with him as, 40-year-old Robin wearing the green tights. And there was some resentment there. I think there was not a whole lot of happiness that they've been typecast. It seems to me, though, that you being typecast, you were like the guy. If they wanted the high-end gorilla, you got the call. Did you ever feel bad that you were typecast? Did you ever say, no, look, I want to play the orangutan? Did you ever want to stretch out?
Well, I was an orangutan, oddly enough, for a MasterCard commercial. So I made like about $25,000 for being an orangutan for one day's work. So
stop it.
Yeah, it was good. No, I never, I actually embraced being the gorilla, even though I was trained as a Shakespearean actor and graduated in theater and had a mime degree, and Marcel Marceau was very kind to me and encouraging. And so I never looked at, oh, I'm the sweaty guy in the gorilla suit, because it was a state-of-the-art gorilla suit. So I could, I went on, they had a top PR firm called the Roland Company out of New York.
Sure.
And their job was to put me on talk shows. So I did over 200 television, radio, talk shows for a 3-year period. And I would go on as me, the human, and bring on the gorilla suit or even the animatronic head and talk about it. And this all started because the American Tourister gorilla jumped on the suitcases, and we did 10 commercials, but 2 were the most famous. One, I was a baggage handler beating up the luggage. Another one, I was a bellman in called Hotel. I threw the luggage down the stairs and then handed it to the lady and the busboy. It's transformation. But what happened was the gorilla was so popular from those commercials that it really opened up a bunch of things. And I thought, I'll just do one commercial and that'll be it. And it took off. And the house I'm speaking to you now from was bought with gorilla residuals from the commercials. So
there are not a lot of people around that can say, I bought my house with gorilla residuals.
Yeah.
That's probably not a long line of people. Probably just you, Don, can say that in the entire planet.
Well, Rick Baker, who designed my suit, along with his right-hand assistant, Steve Johnson, and another friend of mine, Kevin Brennan, they built the suit. And Rick was an Academy Award winner. He had done King Kong and, many other things since. So he was sort of the master creator of building gorilla suits. He did Gorillas in the Mist, and they're, my suit's very high end, and the first American Tourister suit was wonderful. The one I have now is still very good. It's I don't know if we have a picture of it, but there's pictures in my book. But the thing is, I was a writer, so I thought, what a great opportunity for a writer to travel around the world in a state-of-the-art gorilla suit and do all these projects, some bad B movies, and I write about the really bad B movies I was in too. I was in with Prince's girlfriend, Vanity.
We saw that picture. We didn't see that.
Tanya's Island. So very bad movie, but a good creature suit. And that was another experience. So each job was interesting. So I viewed it for kind of a gonzo journalist. So I like to think of my book as Hunter Thompson meets maybe David Sedaris, or a little bit of Jack Kerouac. These are all artists that were enormously influential to me as a poet and a writer. So
that's great, though, that you had the foresight to jot down and journal these really wild, amazing things that happened to you in your life. Somebody sent me a note that you were also the wolf in the Howling. Now, I did not verify that. Is that true?
That's true. I was TC. I was one of the main werewolves in the Howling, and so I've done a lot of horror conventions. And there's people, I really like TC. I had a friend who was a real werewolf. Could you sign my 8x10? And very at these conventions, and I wasn't even the lead in it, but I was a supporting werewolf. But there's a book out called The Howling that a friend of mine in Melbourne, Australia, Lee Gambin wrote, and so
you were a supporting werewolf. Again,
supporting werewolf.
It's going to show up on a lot of business cards. I'm just saying.
Yes, it's a.
I've got to ask you a sort of a geek question about this. The suit itself, you said it weighs 50 pounds, and it's partially, robotic or animatronic. How does that thing work? How do you get into the suit, and how do you make, the eyes look so real and the mouth work? How does all that work?
Well, there's multiple parts to it. The original suit was 50 pounds. They've now lightened the material, just like they have done everything with high-tech improvements. So now it weighs about 35 pounds. The animatronics are in the head, and they control the eyebrows, the lips, and the jaw movement has got a chin cup inside. They're my eyes. A lot of gorillas that you now see in movies, well, mostly they're CGI. So we were really replaced most of our practical effects. Those were effects where you had foam and latex and makeup, and it was all computer generated. But they still do some gorillas in some countries. We did job in Uruguay, Mexico City. We've gone to, Japan, China, Thailand, all over the world, especially countries that don't have big special effect budgets, and they'll end up to me and they say, can we get a gorilla for a chewing gum product in India? And I'll fly to Mumbai and with my gorilla suit and hope I survive. And so
Have a gorilla suit will travel.
yeah, that's it. So now I send my assistant, a guy named Adam Mayer, who's a dear friend of mine. We send him off in the suit. I go sometimes to oversee it, and I will put it on.
Hold on. You've got a gorilla suit understudy? Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, yeah. I got a gorilla suit understudy, and now I just stay home and read books and write and send out my my protege Adam Mayer to do these jobs. But
Hey, can I tell a quick gorilla story?
yes,
Well, sure. I mean, at this point, it's off the rails. So go ahead. We've got a gorilla understudy. So go ahead.
So I had an idea. This was to create a video game, a video puzzle that involved animals, and it was an ABC book where the song about the animal would be created by major rock stars. And I had the interest of a video company, and it was all about the animals. And I asked Don if he would help me kind of seal the deal. And I don't know if you remember this, Don. So anyway, Don agreed to do it and brought his gorilla suit, asked him to go into the offices of the video company and trash everyone's desk and, you know, make a complete mess out of it, and then go to the CEO's office and trash his office too. This is how I make a good impression, by the way. And so, you know, Don's game for anything. So he does it. He goes into, you know, he trashes everybody. They don't know the name. He goes into the CEO's office. The CEO takes one look at him and goes, haven't we worked together? So take it from there, Don.
yeah, and there was no dressing room. Jeff said, well, it's going to be a little rough. You have to get ready in the parking lot. So I'm standing in my underwear, putting the suit on to go, Jeff, can you help me with the zipper? You know, and so we got dressed, and sometimes I've been in Frank Sinatra's dressing room in Caesar's Palace when I worked with Diana Ross for 3 weeks, and we got to use his dressing room because Diana didn't like it. She said, I don't like the lighting, so they had to build her a separate one, and she gave the 3 mimes in her show Frank Sinatra's dressing room. So then cut to me in the parking lot with Jeff, and that was a little bit similar time zone. And then I've also been I did mime shows at colleges and theaters all over the country for a number of years, and I had a solo show, and so I would sometimes have nice college theater dressing rooms. Other times I've been sitting on a mop and bucket pail in the janitor's room at a junior high. And I've learned through my Zen studies it all is good, it all balances out. I think there's Jerry Seinfeld had a thing on Seinfeld where I'm even Steven, I lost $20. Somebody gave me, I found $20. And so I've looked at it like that. And, you know, I've done things for $1.280 and then got thousands of dollars for, you know, chasing. I did one job in Dallas where a guy flew me in and he wanted me to serve divorce papers to his soon-to-be ex-wife. I'll give you $5,000 first-class airfare, and you stay in the suite at the Marriott. All you have to do is when she rings the doorbell, you come out, you go, and you go, and you hand her the divorce papers to sign at the door. And his buddies are in the kitchen, all laughing and doing shots of tequila, and so that was one job. Then on that same trip, the next day, a jeweler hired me to wear Princess Di's diamond tiara. And he had it on loan. And so they had the gorilla wearing Princess Di's diamond tiara. This was when she was still with us. And they gave me a bunch of money to have this famous gorilla come and just walk around in their jewelry store and have wealthy people, 4 or 5 was all, and you had to go through all the security, and they had armed guards standing guarding they didn't care about me. They were guarding the diamond tiara. So
I'm
these,
trying to imagine what the agent's pitch must be like for Don McLeod. You have an agent who's out there, and you know, and the phone calls they must field, like from the guy who wants to throw money at you serving divorce papers in the suit. It's just amazing.
yeah. Well, my agent was in Springfield, Springfield, Illinois, a fellow named Fred Puglia. I don't know if you might know him through your travels, but anyway, Fred was a real huckster, and he sold me on a lot of things. He saw the Atlas van line truck one day, and he called the president. He said, you know, you ought to have our gorilla as your logo. And the guy went, oh, well, I don't know. Anyway, to make a long story short, I became the logo on the Atlas van line's moving vans for several years. And then I was painted over by a pretty girl or something, but
You had your moment. You had your moment on the van lines.
yeah, you do what you can.
That's right. Don McLeod and Jeff Weber are our guests today. Don, you talked a little bit about your mime career, and there was a hot minute there in the 70s when that was a big deal. You mentioned Marceau, and there was Shields and Yarnell at a primetime TV thing. Why was it hot then, and why is it not hot now?
Well, I can blame it on one guy who I won't name, who used to be in Westwood, California, near UCLA, and he was working in the street, and he was the most annoying mime that anyone ever saw. And there was a lot of movie moguls and record people and things that would, you know, be walking around in Westwood, and he would follow them. And he got so annoying that everyone making a TV commercial or movie thought, we're going to get back at this obnoxious mime, and we're going to put them in our commercial and make fun of them. And so a lot of mimes people didn't study. I mean, I studied it from an acting standpoint to have nuance and complete body control and subtle movement and all kinds of character things. And a lot of people just said, oh, I'll just put on the white face and go out and be obnoxious. And you know, Robert Shields was a master at mime, at playing with people from Union Square in San Francisco. But I came from sort of the same background as I was a serious actor. And I think that's what hurt mime, was that people didn't have any training. They thought, oh, I can just paint my face and get a hat and a bucket and bug people and try to get $1, you know. And
but clearly all that studying paid off with you in the suit, because it had to be all nonverbal communication, right?
Yeah, the gorilla was entire. I mean, anyone can put on a gorilla suit, but there's a lot of just, you know, movements and just head isolations and things. And so I was able to use my mime training to articulate a state-of-the-art gorilla suit. If I had been in a Western costume, bad $75 Halloween suit, it would have been a nightmare. I would never have done it. But having this state-of-the-art gorilla suit, I found I could go anywhere. I mean, walk into 5-star hotels and go through the lobby, and people would say, "Hey, come here, I want to get a picture, a selfie with you or something." And, you know, usually with a bad gorilla suit, it wouldn't have worked. But because the gorilla was an iconic, I mean, we won 2 Clio Awards for the commercials that we did for American Tourister. And Samsonite, by the way, then took it over. I did a couple of commercials as the Samsonite gorilla. So anyway.
So Don, what's next for you in the gorilla suit? What do you see in the future?
We have some jobs on hold. We did a commercial and a feature film in Turkey, the country turkey, not the Thanksgiving bird. And so I have been inside of weird animals before. That's a whole other story. I don't mean.
Yeah, probably not one that we should share on the internet.
No, we can't share that one. I meant suits, not any kind.
Too late now.
It's too late.
Affair. Yeah, we're gone. It's over. I forgot the question, Burke.
It wasn't a good question. The answer was much better. Way before all of us were wearing masks, Don McLeod, you were wearing a mask. So you must have some unique take on mask wearing in the pandemic. Any
Yes.
tips for a guy that knows what to do?
Yes, the gorilla, I think, I was going to go to the supermarket the other day with the gorilla head on, and I thought, I don't know if it qualifies as a protective mask. You know, I thought, well, because I'm very extroverted, and the other side of me is I'm like J.D. Salinger reclusive, and I'm a hybrid of those two personality types. So I thought, I try to wear like a boring shirt and a boring mask and just do my shopping. That's when I met Jeff in the produce section at a store called Ralph's here in Los Angeles. And I was holding, I think it was a bag of carrots, and I was contemplating buying mushrooms. I said, well, I've bought them before. They always go bad before I have time to cook. And I can't remember if Jeff was holding any produce, but we were in the produce section, a chance meeting, and I hadn't seen him in about 10 years. And
That's right.
I said, what's up? What's up? And I said, oh, this, that, and the other, and I'm hacking away at my book. I'm just about to trying to get, because I've been working on this book for 40 years. Well, 1979 was the first notes for a Bad B movie I wrote. And here we are, thanks to Headline Books and Ashley and Kathy. I'm about to launch a new chapter in my life. And so I'm super excited to, I mean, somebody like you, Burke, and Jeff, you guys are people I look up to. I was reading
That's
your
a mistake.
resume and your website, and you promoted everybody.
I would set that bar a little higher if I were you. You know, Don, I got to tell you, this perhaps may be, in the thousands of interviews I've done, the most unique interview I've ever done.
Well, I've got more if you need it.
You know, there's not a template out there that says, you know, I'm going to interview a guy that's been a professional gorilla for the past 4 decades.
And a talking mime, no less.
Well, best of luck with the book. Is the book out and available now? I should clarify that. Is it done?
It's still at the printer. They got delayed a little bit. So it's a pre-order available through Headline Books, or people can contact me directly. I'll have some to sell too, but I recommend people go to headlinebooks.com and they can pre-order it. It's Kathy, the lead publisher there, said it should be ready in a couple weeks. There was a little printing glitch, and so they're, I think, fixing that, and it was supposed to be ready on the 20th. That's tomorrow, right? But
you know, he sends other people out in his understudies in the gorilla suit. I wonder if the understudy actually wrote the gorilla suit book. See, we'll never know. Maybe that was the glitch.
No, he's...
Are these all really your stories, Don?
Pardon me?
Are these all really your gorilla stories?
Oh, yeah, they're all mine, because my understudy is a Hungarian Israeli who has English as his second language. And so he is very fluent in Hungarian and Hebrew, and English, too. I'm giving him a hard time. I think he's watching this, or he will be later. No, these are all my stories. I have enough for a sequel if this book sells. I have a son of Gorilla Tales. So.
Well, you've always got to have a backup plan, I think, if you're going to wear a gorilla suit for life. Don McLeod, best of luck with the new book, and hopefully there will be more B movies in your future, and more free trips to Turkey, or to serve divorce papers somewhere in the heart of Texas. Thank you for being here.
I hope so. We need more stories. So.
Indeed. And Jeff Weber, continue to rack up those lies in the music business as best you can.
Will do, brother. Will do.
What an interesting hour of broadcast tonight. It's the holiday book extravaganza from Headline Books. Look, with the year we've all had with 2020, this is what we need. We need a laugh. These are the books that we need to check out, to put a smile on our faces. For Don McLeod and Jeff Weber and the gang at Headline Books, thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Ashley. And thank you for watching. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Bert.
Love you guys. My best.
Thank you.
Adios.
Adios.
Thank you.